So with the work breakdown structure, this is like the end of the road in that sense, of scope management. Once you come to the work breakdown and preparing this work breakdown, normally, like I said, we do not want to be doing more than 3 or 4 layers in the work packages, you see. Other than that, you'll be putting it as the product itself or the component itself. It's just like when you're doing a school, you have a canteen building, that school classroom building, the library building, the infrastructure, these are all subcomponents. These are not work packages. So when you go into and write the work breakdown structure, it's about the physical work. It's about the step-by-step activities that you need to do in order to do the job, you see, to finish up the job. So it's about work package. It's about activities. It's about tasks. So with that work itself, we want to break it down to not more than 4 layers. That is what I always recommend for my students. So creating WBS is one of the most important elements. So this is actually defining the work of the project. See? So it will give a very clear, good picture of the project. So from product breakdown, we're coming into project breakdown. From project breakdown, we'll be looking into work breakdown. So project breakdown is like the work package. The work breakdown is the activities itself, work activities itself. So this, again, it will define the project. It will define the scope very clearly in that way. This is one of the good ways of actually defining the scope of the project. So there are many examples of how we do work package breakdown, and then deliverables to activities and all that. So yeah, I mean, like, you can follow this, and I also have another set of examples that will show you what the work breakdowns look like and how you can do the work breakdown. I mean, like, samples of the work breakdown. So these are all sorts of different types of breakdown that is available depending, because project management is not only for construction. There are many type of breakdown. It can be for product, it can be for programming, it can be for even procurement, organization. So we can always do different type of breakdown. But the main thing here that I want to cover is the concept of value engineering. So I will have 3 recordings on value engineering. So we do, especially when we do the scope definition, this is a very important point when we start to do value engineering. Because if you don't do value engineering at this point in time, you're just going to be designing a project. You've done a good job so far all the way up to here, defining the work breakdown. But every work breakdown, can you think about the value? Can you think about what can be done on the component to optimize the component? And that is the concept of value engineering. And I've got 3 recordings, about 13 minutes based on value engineering. I hope we can go through that to get a concept of doing value engineering and what are the steps required to do value engineering. What must you consider when you're doing value engineering? So this bit here is very difficult if you do value engineering during construction, because things are already designed. And when you do it during construction, it's considered as a variation. It's no more value engineering. It's too late, to change at that point in time. So the best is before, when you're designing the scope, when you are thinking of the design, you do value engineering. It has to be at the same time, even a bit earlier when you are actually doing the preliminary design of the scope and the work package. These are the time that you should be thinking about which component can be reduced without reducing the performance, which component can be uplifted the performance without increasing the cost by too much. How do you make the project worth? The project worth must be, in the end, the component worth will make up the project worth or the project value, and a higher worth or higher value it will form a better project in that sense. And it will be a project that will make more sense to the client, cover more solution without without losing, like too much money. You don't want to, I mean, we all know that, nothing is for free. So you want to build something really good, but then if you don't really use it that way, or you're only using certain components of the project in a certain ways only, then what's the point of like doing the best state of the art? Everything is the number one kind of thing in the project. No point, because at the end of the day, the users are not going to use it. You see? So it must be of good value. It must be of high usage, of good usage, and also of convenience. What are the value it is to the project without affecting the performance? The cost shouldn't be too high. If it's high, the performance must be equally high. If the performance is low and the cost is high, then you have a very low value, and you really need to relook at the design of the project. Yep. So this is the concept of value engineering, and I'll be covering that, like I say, 3 lectures, 3 recording on life cycle, 3 recordings on value. So with this, you're probably having a lot of things to listen already in a sense. And the last bit, of course, is to control the scope, and we do not want scope creep. The most important thing is, unauthorized scope creep. You do a lot of changes during construction. You do a lot of changes during design. Design changes is still not too bad, but once you design finish and you see that there's a lot of problem and you have to keep going back to redo it, then that is where the problem will comes in. The scope will change, you see. So we try to control that. And there's many ways of controlling. This is usually during construction site management, design management, and how design will actually impact the final quality of the product, and how the design will also impact the scope of the product. And, in that sense, we must try to lessen changes as much as possible. Not to say that we can be so flexible that, you don't allow any changes, but if there is a project that, or there's a component that you need to change, but you must be careful in terms of calculating those changes, whether it's actually going to change the project bit by bit to a point that it's not done properly. And usually this will happen if the initial planning definition of the scope, the work breakdown, and the designs are not being checked properly and done properly. Study of the options are not studied properly. The yes or no is not being studied properly. Screening is not done properly. These are usually the case because you're not actually solving the problem or fulfilling the issues, you see. And then when you finish a project or halfway through, you realize, hey, this is not solving the problem, this is not really right, and then you need to keep changing. So these are the type of scope changes that we try to avoid completely in that sense. So if we do it properly since the beginning until now, I think we should be able to avoid scope changes or what we call variation to the project. Variation in a way is inevitable because nothing can be perfect. Design cannot be perfect. No studies can be perfect, but it must be within certain reason, and it must be a valid reason for you to change your scope of work. So this is project management, what we want to see. And when you change the scope of work, you need to restudy the time, you need to restudy your cost, you need to restudy the quality, you need to restudy procurement risk and all that. So the bit of going back to restudy are always missing in terms of scope management. You need to, when there's a scope change, please realize that you need to go back and look into many aspects as well before you can proceed on with just directly the scope change, you see. So we need to study that before we say yes or no to the proposed scope change, okay? So I think with that, we'll end the sessions, and I think there's quite a lot of things to go through, and I hope we can take it bit by bit to finish up the recording. And I'll see you again very soon. Okay, thank you very much.